there is very much those that know and those that don't know about the Carolina Panthers right now. And I'm not disrespecting those that don't. I think one of the harder things to do in media, and I've tried to do this at different stops along, and I know how difficult it is to be an expert or be asked to be an expert on every team. National media personalities, they do not have it easy. Do you know why? Because there's people like us that are only tasked with being an absolute expert on one team. So we get to spend 32 times as much of our energy, resources, and time on the Carolina Panthers as they do, right? And if we're being real, media personalities probably spend half their time on the Cowboys. So it's even more difficult, right? So then you see some articles and things, and you're like, well, that's not right, or they're missing the point there. They're not doing it right there. And it's unfair to them because, I don't have to know who the backup defensive tackle is for the Los Angeles Chargers. I can look it up if we have that conversation, but they have to know it for the Panthers, right? And it's not really fair. So ESPN put out offseason grades, okay? They gave letter grades to every team in the NFL based on how their offseason went. And we'll just rip the Band-Aid off. It was a C. It was a C. I mean, it's passing, right? C's get degrees.
It's average.
But you're probably not stoked with it. And if you're a Panther fan, you probably felt better about your offseason because, Dan Morgan and Dave Canales is so optimistic and Teteroa McMillan felt like he fell into your lap and all of these things. Trayvon Merrick is supposedly going to solve the safety woes and all of these things. C, I'm okay with. I'm not going to argue the letter grade. However, when you dive into the reasoning and you see things that are like, you're just missing it, that's frustrating, right? It actually goes back to school, if I'm being real. Like math, if I go in there and I'm like, hey, this test, what the heck? Look at my grade. That's bad. And they go like, well, yeah, the answer was 8. You gave 9. The answer was 32X and you gave 47Y. It's like, all right, I'm fine. I'm going to leave. But like a paper or something, I'm like, why'd I get a bad grade? And they just didn't see what I was going for. That's more frustrating. So I just don't think that the national media notices what's going on with the Panthers. For example, in their explanation, the move they disliked the most was signing defensive tackle Tershawn Wharton, a.k.a. Turk Wharton, guy that comes from the Chiefs. They called Turk Wharton an overpay at 3 years, $15 million per year, with a little more than $30 million fully guaranteed. And maybe, but also guys with 8.5 sacks last year are not going to come cheap anywhere. I don't want to say they overpaid. They paid probably market rate for somebody with that production from that team. He's coming from the Chiefs, right? You're going to have to pay a little extra to get that winning glow, right? That culture setter that can tell you how Mahomes runs a franchise. I'm being half facetious, but that's how it works. Here's the explanation. I'll read it word for word before I announce my nitpick. Wharton recorded 8.5 sacks for the Chiefs between the regular season and playoffs last season, but his below-average 7% pass rush win rate at defensive tackle makes me awfully wary about that sack production continuing, especially since he won't have Chris Jones drawing double teams and causing disruption. There are also questions about Wharton's run-stopping ability. I don't think his contract was worth the cost. That's their explanation. Which, opinion, cool. This is where Panther fans are going, are you forgetting about Derrick Brown?
That was my thought exactly. I was like, oh, yeah, they just have this other guy over there named, I don't know, Derrick Brown.
Chris Jones drawing double teams. Oh, I don't know why he would not have, like, he's used to playing next to Chris Jones, who draws double teams. He is going to be completely out of water playing alongside Derrick Brown, who draws double teams. There are questions about his ability to stop the run. Derrick Brown got that. Derrick Brown's the best run-stuffing interior defensive tackle in the league. 103 tackles the last time he played a healthy full season. 103 tackles from interior defensive line. It's a lot of tackles for an off-ball linebacker. Turk Wharton wouldn't work everywhere. And I'm not saying he's going to work with the Panthers, right? Because, anytime you bring in a new player, there are just inherent differences, right? There are inherent questions that you don't know how it's going to add up. But he's not going to show up in Carolina and be number one on the scouting report, circled and double-teamed. He is going to get in where he fits in, just like he got in where he fit in with the Chiefs. And if they are not giving Derrick Brown the same level of attention that they were giving Chris Jones or other great defensive linemen because they now have to focus more on Turk Wharton, I don't care if Turk Wharton doesn't get a sack all season because Derrick Brown is going to be eating their lunch without that attention. I don't agree with every move they made, okay? If you give them a C and you say something like, well, they spent a bunch of money on a run-stuffing safety and they don't have somebody to play the center field portion of the field, they don't have a true coverage safety, I can get on board with that. If you say you give them a C and it's because J.C. Horn isn't the best defensive back in NFL history, and you gave him at the time the highest paid contract in NFL history, I'd be okay with that. I still think you pay your guys. I still think he has the potential. I didn't hate the move when it happened. I'd like it to be a little bit less, but if it's what it took, it's what it took. If you had to pay a little bit of a Panther tax to get a guy to stick around despite all the losing, you got to do it. But if those were your reasons, cool. The move they liked the most, you ready for this? Like the $2 million or whatever they gave Rico Dowdle. That was the move they liked the most. I'm not saying that's a bad signing. I'm saying you made Chuba Hubbard by cap hit one of the top 16, 17 running backs in the NFL, and you drafted a running back in the 4th round. Great value on a guy that could step in if Chuba Hubbard gets hurt, I guess. The Panthers are always going to have a shroud of mystery around them until they get back to the levels they were with Cam Newton, right? Until they get back to that 2015 kind of era, because there's just not a lot of attention being paid to them other than looking at final scores and giggling. There's 0% chance if instead of the Panthers, they sign. We were looking at the breakdown of, any of the golden children of the NFL right now. If it were the Bills, the Ravens, the Chargers, right? Anyone with one of these quarterbacks that everybody's excited about, there's 0% chance that certain things will be overlooked like that. But that's what you're up against. Until you're winning, until you're playing more primetime games, until you have some superstars, they're not even going to know everything about you. You got to make them want to know everything about you. And it goes back to what we talked about with the NFL Top 100. Panthers aren't going to have anybody. They're going to have 0 of the top 100 players in the league. Do you think, by the way, as voted by their peers, as voted by their players, you're going to be a bit unknown, right? Maybe that's an advantage. Maybe it's fantastic that everybody forgot about Derrick Brown. So Jacksonville can get punched in the face in game 1 and go, who was that? As if, scouting reports don't go back 2 years, just 1.